The moment she quietly closed the front door behind us and looked at me with tears filling her eyes, I felt my heart sink. She slowly turned toward the staircase and softly said, "This will be our little secret." In that instant, every terrible possibility raced through my mind. I wondered if I had misunderstood the woman I had admired for years, or if something much deeper was about to change my life forever. What happened upstairs was nothing like I expected, and it became a moment that taught me the true meaning of family, forgiveness, and second chances. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still has the power to change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this every week. When I started dating Emma, I knew her family had been through difficult years. Her parents had divorced after decades together, leaving emotional scars that never completely healed. Her mother, Linda, had spent years trying to rebuild her life while quietly carrying burdens no one else seemed to notice. She always smiled when I visited, always asked if I had eaten enough, and always thanked me for helping with even the smallest chores. She reminded me of the kind of people who gave everything to others without ever expecting anything in return. A few months later, Linda decided to move into a smaller home across town. The old house held too many painful memories, and maintaining it alone had become impossible. Emma had to work that weekend, so I volunteered to help. It felt like the right thing to do. I loaded heavy furniture, carried endless boxes, and spent hours driving back and forth between the two houses. By sunset my muscles ached, but seeing Linda slowly smile as the empty house echoed behind us made every sore muscle worthwhile. The new house was modest but warm. Sunlight streamed through the windows, filling every room with hope that seemed absent from her old home. We arranged furniture, unpacked kitchen supplies, and hung family photos one by one. Every picture carried a different chapter of her life, from childhood birthdays to family vacations that now felt like distant dreams. I noticed that many frames still included her former husband. She never removed them. She simply dusted them carefully before placing them on the shelf, as though protecting memories instead of trying to erase them. Late that evening, after nearly everything had been moved inside, Linda looked around the quiet house. She thanked me again, but this time her voice sounded different. It carried years of exhaustion hidden beneath simple gratitude. She looked toward the staircase and gently asked me to come upstairs because there was something she wanted to show me before I left. Then she quietly added, "This will be our little secret." For a brief second my mind filled with confusion. The words sounded mysterious, almost alarming. I followed her upstairs, unsure of what waited behind the bedroom door. My heart beat faster with every step. The silence inside the house made each footstep echo louder than the last. She opened the door to a small room tucked away at the end of the hallway. It wasn't a bedroom. It was a tiny office filled with old boxes, faded photo albums, handwritten journals, and dusty folders stacked neatly against the wall. She slowly sat down in an old chair and stared at everything in front of her. Tears finally rolled down her face. She explained that nobody knew how much she had been struggling financially. After the divorce she had quietly taken extra jobs, sold jewelry, skipped meals, and hidden overdue bills so Emma would never worry. She never wanted her daughter to feel guilty for building her own future. Everyone believed she was managing just fine because she refused to complain. She opened one of the folders and showed me letters she had written but never mailed. They were letters to Emma, apologizing for not always being the perfect mother, apologizing for not protecting the family from falling apart, apologizing for every birthday she couldn't afford, and every moment she believed she had failed. None of those letters had ever been sent because she didn't want Emma carrying the weight of her pain. Then she handed me a small wooden box. Inside were newspaper clippings, school awards, childhood drawings, and photographs of Emma growing up. Everything had been carefully preserved despite years of hardship. Linda smiled through her tears and admitted she had secretly saved every memory because she feared one day dementia, illness, or simply time would steal them away. She wanted someone else to know where they were in case anything ever happened to her. That was the secret. She didn't ask me for money. She didn't ask me to solve her problems. She only asked me to promise that I would never let Emma think she had been anything less than deeply loved. She wanted her daughter to remember strength instead of sacrifice. Walking back downstairs, I realized how quickly people judge situations without knowing the truth. The words, "our little secret," had sounded suspicious at first, but the reality was heartbreaking. Sometimes the greatest secrets aren't shameful at all. They're simply silent acts of love hidden behind brave smiles. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything Linda had carried alone for years. The next morning I quietly reached out to Emma. Without revealing her mother's private letters or breaking my promise, I gently suggested we spend more time helping Linda around the house. Emma immediately agreed, admitting she had worried her mother seemed lonelier than ever. Over the following months, small acts slowly transformed Linda's life. Sunday dinners became a tradition again. We repaired broken shelves, planted flowers in the yard, painted faded walls, and filled the quiet house with laughter instead of silence. Neighbors who barely knew her before started stopping by with homemade meals and friendly conversations. Her smile became genuine again. Emma eventually noticed that her mother looked happier than she had in years. She couldn't understand why. I simply smiled because I knew the secret wasn't about hiding the truth forever. It was about protecting someone's dignity until they were ready to stand strong again. One afternoon Linda surprised both of us by opening those same memory boxes herself. She proudly shared old photographs, childhood stories, and family keepsakes she had hidden away for years. For the first time since the divorce, she cried openly in front of Emma instead of pretending everything was perfect. Instead of disappointment, she found understanding. Instead of pity, she received love. Watching mother and daughter embrace in the middle of that little living room reminded me that healing doesn't always come through grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with simply being present when someone feels forgotten. The greatest lesson I carried from that day wasn't about keeping secrets. It was about recognizing silent pain before it becomes unbearable. Many parents spend their lives protecting their children from worries they'll never fully understand. Behind ordinary smiles are extraordinary sacrifices that often go unnoticed until someone chooses to truly listen. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance. Your support allows these stories of hope and compassion to reach people who may need them the most. Blue Heart special request: before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness always finds its way home." We'd love to know you're watching with us and believing in the power of compassion. As I drove away from Linda's house that evening, I looked back one last time. She was standing on the front porch, smiling peacefully beneath the warm evening sky. The house wasn't large. It wasn't expensive. But it had become a home again. Not because every problem had disappeared, but because someone finally shared the weight she had been carrying alone. Sometimes the most unforgettable moments begin with words that sound mysterious, but end by revealing something far more beautiful than we ever imagined. The greatest secrets are often quiet acts of unconditional love, hidden sacrifices, and silent promises made by people who care more about others than themselves. And if we choose kindness over assumptions, we might discover that giving someone a second chance doesn't just change their life, it changes our own forever.